In the quiet city of Mansfield, Ohio, in the mid-1960s, no one could have imagined that one of the most haunting and baffling criminal cases in American history was about to begin. Lester Edward Eubanks was born on October 31, 1943, in Sandusky, Ohio. His father, Mose, was a well-respected minister, a man of faith, family, and order. When Lester was 4, the Eubanks family moved to Mansfield, a small community where everyone knew everyone else. To the public, Lester was charismatic, a young man with an eccentric streak. He'd stroll the neighborhood carrying nunchucks, showing off his martial arts moves and chatting with locals. But behind the friendly smile was a darkness that few recognized. By his early 20s, Eubanks had already been arrested twice. He was out on bond for attempted sexual assault when he crossed paths with a 14-year-old girl named Mary Ellen Diener, a meeting that would end in unspeakable tragedy. On November 14, 1965, Mary Ellen Diener and her younger sister Brenda were doing laundry for their family. The dryer at home had stopped working, so their mother allowed them to use the nearby laundromat, just a short walk from their grandmother's house next door. Everything seemed perfectly safe. Mansfield wasn't a place where young girls disappeared. But when Mary Ellen and Brenda ran out of change, Mary Ellen volunteered to go to another laundromat just 5 minutes away. Brenda waited patiently for 1 hour, then 2. Her sister never came back. Panic set in. Brenda rushed to her grandmother's house, and soon, the entire neighborhood was searching for Mary Ellen. It wasn't long before police cars gathered outside the second laundromat. Mary Ellen had been found, brutally murdered. She had been shot twice and bludgeoned with a brick. Her clothes were torn, her body left in an alley. Mansfield, a town of churchgoers and quiet streets, was shattered. Within hours, investigators began piecing things together. Witnesses reported seeing a familiar face around the laundromat that afternoon, a young man named Lester Eubanks. He had recently purchased a gun matching the caliber used in the murder. When police came knocking on November 16th, Eubanks didn't fight or deny. He was calm, cold. Inside the interrogation room, he confessed. He told detectives he had seen Mary Ellen and her sister at the laundromat earlier that day. When he spotted Mary Ellen walking alone later, something dark overcame him. He waited by a vacant house, leaning against the fence. When Mary Ellen approached, she noticed him standing there and asked what he was doing. That simple question, that small act of awareness, sealed her fate. Eubanks grabbed her, dragging her toward the back of the property as she screamed. When he couldn't silence her, he pulled out his gun and shot her twice in the stomach. Then he ran home, stashed the weapon, and tried to convince himself it was over. But guilt, or perhaps paranoia, drew him back to the scene. Seeing that Mary Ellen was still breathing, Eubanks picked up a paving brick and beat her until she stopped moving. When he was done, he went home, changed clothes, and went dancing downtown. The next morning, he attended Sunday school and church, sitting among worshipers as if nothing had happened. In May 1966, the trial began. Lester Eubanks was charged with first-degree murder. At his trial at the Richland County Courthouse, Eubanks himself testified in front of the jury. There was no remorse in his voice, no tremor in his hands. He seemed almost proud, detached from the horror he had caused. The jury deliberated quickly. Death sentence. Eubanks was transferred to the Ohio State Penitentiary, where he awaited execution. But as the years dragged on, his case fell into the hands of history. The death penalty was abolished in Ohio in 1972, and instead of facing the electric chair, Eubanks's sentence was commuted to life in prison. He spent his time painting, earning praise for his talent. Guards admired his artwork. He became the model prisoner. Quiet, polite, and obedient, so much so that he was soon enrolled in the prison's honor program, which allowed trusted inmates to work and socialize outside the walls under minimal supervision. That decision would prove catastrophic. December 7, 1973, 5 inmates, including Eubanks, were taken to the Great Southern Shopping Center in Columbus to do Christmas shopping. The men wore civilian clothes, mingled freely among shoppers, and were told to meet back at 2 p.m. sharp. When the time came, 4 inmates returned. Lester Eubanks did not. At first, guards assumed he was delayed, but after minutes turned into hours, the truth became clear. He was gone. He had simply walked away. By the time authorities reacted, Eubanks had vanished. His family claimed to know nothing. The trail went cold almost immediately. For 2 decades, there were no sightings, no leads. Then in 1994, America's Most Wanted aired a segment about Eubanks, and suddenly, the phone lines lit up. A woman in Los Angeles called, saying she remembered him. He'd gone by the name Victor Young, lived with a woman named Kay Banks, and worked odd jobs. Detectives soon discovered that Kay Banks had once been married to Eubanks' cousin, Darrell Banks. She had even exchanged letters with Eubanks while he was behind bars. According to Kay, after the escape, a relative helped Eubanks flee Ohio. He spent some time in Michigan before heading west to California, where she took him in temporarily. But soon the situation turned tense. When Kay told him that the FBI had called her house asking questions, Eubanks packed his bags and disappeared again. He was blending in ordinary, invisible. A man hiding in plain sight. In July 2018, after decades of frustration, the U.S. Marshals Service added Lester Eubanks to its 15 most wanted fugitives list. A $50,000 reward was offered for information leading to his arrest. Investigators released age-progressed photos, imagining what he might look like now. An older man with deep lines, gray hair, maybe glasses. Somewhere out there, they believed, he was still alive. Then, in 2019, a shocking development. A man claiming to be Eubanks' son contacted the FBI. He said his mother had been assaulted by Eubanks decades earlier and offered to provide DNA to help identify potential victims. It could have opened doors to countless cold cases, but FBI policy prevents the use of familial DNA to search its databases. The opportunity was lost. Despite multiple promising leads, no arrest has ever been made. Today, Lester Eubanks would be over 80 years old. Investigators believe he could still be alive, perhaps living under a new identity, perhaps surrounded by people who have no idea who he truly is. To this day, the U.S. Marshals continue to chase rumors, photos, and whispers. Every so often, a tip comes in from someone who thinks they saw him at a bus stop. But just like that December afternoon in 1973, Lester Eubanks always seems one step ahead. If you found this story as chilling and frustrating as we did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life mysteries and manhunts. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.